The top stories tonight in Y News. The Supreme Court temporarily halts the implementation of the no-contact apprehension program of some Metro Manila cities for traffic violations.
Malacanang is investigating who attempted to forge President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s signature on an appointment document for the position of Commissioner of the Bureau of Immigration.
Manhunt operations are conducted by the Philippine Army and police in Maguindanao in response to the ambush that killed the Ampatuan Police Chief.
A massive ice sheet in Greenland is set to raise global sea levels by nearly a foot by the end of this century in a melting event driven by human-caused climate change.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is Tuesday, the 30th of August, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts. I am Harleen Delgado.
First in the news, the implementation of the No-Contact Apprehension Policy, or NCAP, is temporarily suspended by the Supreme Court. 5 cities in the National Capital Region and the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority are currently implementing this. Asher Cadapan Jr. tells us why.
The Supreme Court considers the petitions of some transport groups who filed a petition certiorari with application for a temporary restraining order against the no-contact apprehension policy. While another petition was filed by attorney Juman Pa, who objected to the city of Manila using NCAP after paying a 20,000 fine for traffic violations. With this, the highest court issued a temporary restraining order enjoining all respondents from the implementation of NCAP programs and related ordinances effective immediately and until further orders from the court. The court also said that any apprehensions through NCAP programs and related ordinances shall be prohibited until further orders from the court. The TRO covers the implementation of NCAP by the 5 local government units in the National Capital Region, including the cities of Manila, Valenzuela, Parañaque, Muntinlupa, and Quezon City. Metropolitan Manila Development Authority was not named respondent but is covered by the TRO because its previous resolution was the basis of the local government ordinances of LGU respondents. The transport groups all agreed to suspend NCAP's implementation.
Kung sasabihin nila na, sige, upo tayo, usap tayo, samantalang tuloy na binabaril kami sa kalsada, wag na muna. Meron bang pistok na nag-uusap tayo pero tuloy-tuloy ang problema sa kalsada.
Transport groups complain about different LGU rules in the NCAP implementation.
Sa bus kasi kami yung medyo may pinakamalaking problema kasi kami yung maraming binabayaran. MMDA pa lang, marami na kaming binayaran. Iba pa yung local government unit. Kasi ganito ang nangyayari lahat ng violation ng driver napupunta sa operator.
Kailan ba naging basihan ng alarma ang violation sa traffic? Bakit mo i-alarma yan? Yan ba parehong ng bigat ng hit and run ng mga carnapping case?
Sinabi ni Asek Guadis na iba ang fee ng public utility vehicle, iba ang violation fee ng public utility vehicle at iba rin ang violation fee ng private vehicle. Hindi po dapat gano'n. Dapat uniforme po. Dapat kung ano ang kasalanan ng isa public utility vehicle, gano'n din ang violation fee ng private vehicle.
The case is set for oral arguments on January 24, 2023. Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. is now reviewing the draft sugar order for the importation of 150,000 metric tons of sugar. By the middle of September, the said importation order is anticipated to be released. Nel Maribohok reports.
The recommendation of the Sugar Regulatory Administration allowing the importation of 150,000 metric tons of sugar will soon be decided by President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles reports that the President is currently reviewing the draft sugar order.
Yes, of course, because he will review the order prior to signing. So yun na po yung latest natin tungkol sa sugar order.
SRA Acting Administrator David Alba in an interview said upon the recommendation of the President, they will work on the importation order of 150,000 metric tons of pure refined sugar to stabilize prices. Alba added that their target to release the sugar order by mid-September. The press secretary said the decision of the government will be aligned with the local sugar producers.
Parati naman po itong nire-review. Kung ano yung naaangkop na amount, yun po ang magiging basehan, yun po ang gagawing quota ng importation.
The palace expects the 150,000 metric tons of imported sugar will supply the needs of the food manufacturing sector to protect millions of jobs. Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, the palace confirms that Agriculture Undersecretary Leocadio Sebastian is on preventive suspension, as revealed in the Senate investigation that President Bongbong Marcos has yet to decide on his resignation earlier this month. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
In the second Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on the sugar importation mess, Agriculture Undersecretary Leocadio Sebastian reveals he is under preventive suspension for 90 days. This despite him handing his resignation letter on August 11 following the botched Sugar Order 4 on the importation of 300,000 metric tons of sugar, which he signed on behalf of President Bongbong Marcos Jr. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles confirms the preventive suspension of Sebastian, saying that his status will not be decided yet while the preventive suspension is still in effect.
Kung titignan niyo po ang resignation ni Undersecretary Sebastian, ni-resign po niya ang kanyang mga duties sa ilalim ng DA or bilang Undersecretary ng DA. Hindi po siya nag-resign from the civil service or bilang kawani ng gobyerno. So may pagkakaiba po.
In the hearing, Sebastian defended his signing of the sugar order, saying that he based the decision to approve the importation from the signals he picked up from the president.
Based on my interaction with the president, especially during the August 1 meeting, there was really a big sense, also expressed by the president, that we have to act fast when it comes to addressing the sugar supply issue. And based also from feedback from stakeholders that were conducted by SRA, and then from the August 4 meeting of Administrator Sarapica with the President and the ES and Board Member Balderrama, the feedback was that there is a more or less agreement that the importation program is a go. So that is why picking up from all those signals, Your Honor, and also the follow-up memo that I sent, that gave me the sense, Your Honor.
Yusek, can I butt in? Is the word a quote-unquote is a go? A verbal instruction?
No,
a
no, Your
written
Honor.
instruction?
That
Or
is
you're just your own perception?
Perception, Your
Your
Honor.
perception.
Meanwhile, Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez did not attend the Senate hearing due to a cabinet meeting this morning. Minority Senators Coco Pimentel and Risa Hontiveros were disappointed by this, noting that they want to clarify some questions on Rodriguez's role in the events leading up to the signing of the rejected sugar order. Angeles says she assumes Rodriguez will explain to the lawmakers his absence. The newly appointed officials of the Sugar Regulatory Administration, or SRA, were also not able to attend the inquiry physically due to COVID-19. The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee has requested the SRA to submit the list of names of the personalities such as importers and traders who were given the allocation for the sugar importation. No date was announced for the next committee hearing on the issue. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God. President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. has ordered an investigation into who was behind an attempt to forge an appointment paper for the position of Commissioner of the Bureau of Immigration. Nel Maribohok will tell us why.
Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles disclosed that President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. ordered an investigation to look into the alleged forged document, especially on the document that named Attorney Abraham Espejo Jr. as the next Commissioner of the Bureau of Immigration and which was widely circulated on social media. It was made clear by the Press Secretary that the palace did not release the document.
Walang record ng dokumento na yon. Ayon sa Revised Penal Code, Article 161, ang pag-forge ng Great Seal of the Government, signature ng Presidente, or stamp ng Presidente ay pinaparusahan ng reklusyon temporal. Ang reklusyon temporal po ay 12 to 20 years.
The issue is being taken seriously, as Secretary Angeles said, as this could also take place in other instances, particularly the use of the President's signature in other documents.
Yung ganitong klaseng crime can cause instability. And ito po yung pangunahin sa isip ng ating Pangulo na magkakagulo kung ganito yung papabayaan natin mangyari. Bukod pa nun, tandaan po natin, signature ng ating Pangulo ang pinaghihinalaan nating na forge. So medyo mabigat po yung implications niyan. Hindi rin natin alam kung ano ang maaaring paggamitan ng mga ganong klaseng dokumento. It can cause not just confusion but further crimes. Kung kaya't with this in mind, nag-order siya ng investigation.
The Press Secretary appealed media outfits to assist the authorities in the investigation by publishing a report citing the fake document. She made it clear that it is only an appeal for information to be given to the authorities and not a warning to media organizations. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
An agricultural group on Monday urged Congress to repeal Republic Act 8172 or the Act for Salt Iodization Nationwide or ASIN law to revive the local salt industry. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
According to the Philippine Chamber of Agriculture and Food Incorporated, repealing Republic Act 8172, also known as the Act Promoting National Salt Iodization, will make local salt production easier. The group said local producers cannot comply with the law's strict guidelines since it was enacted in 1995, which focused largely on the mandatory iodization of locally produced salt. Its goal is to completely eradicate micronutrient malnutrition and prevent diseases like goiter. But even without the law, its intention can be supported by the government, according to PICAFI. The group said that more than 90% of the country's salt consumption is being imported.
Kung pwede i-repeal na yung batas na yon, kasi pag na-repeal mo naman yan, hindi naman nagpe-prevent na maggawa ng iodized salt. Kasi yung iodized salt, may wisdom din naman yung batas na yon para doon sa mga kulang sa iodine.
According to PICAFI, coconut trees need thousands of tons of salt as fertilizers, making it a possible market for salt producers.
Hindi naman kailangan ng iodine ng coconut trees. Kailangan natin almost 300,000 metric tons para sa coconut trees. Isang kilo lang isang taon. Sa isang puno, we have more than 350 million trees.
Two bills related to the salt industry have been filed in the House of Representatives. One of the bills, introduced by Representative Bronsalo, seeks to amend the ASIN law. The other, introduced by Representative Christopher De Venecia, seeks to repeal it. According to the Department of Agriculture, if the law is changed, the DNR should relinquish control of salt farms to them. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, we serve the people, we give glory to God.
Provides $11 million for the packaging of the Jynneos monkeypox vaccine, which will be manufactured in the country later this year. Beverly Saison will tell us why.
Michigan-based Grand River Aseptic was signed up by the Danish company Bavarian Nordic, sole producer of Jynneos, to package the 2-dose shot against monkeypox. The funding is expected to help the manufacturer recruit more staff and buy additional equipment, and production is expected to begin later this year. Currently, there is a shortage of the Jynneos vaccine in the U.S. According to Rochelle Walensky, director of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, very few people receive the second shot needed out of the 207,000 doses given in the U.S. Initially, the United States ordered 3 million doses, and in July, another 2.5. The additional doses will be packaged at the U.S. facility. Around the world, there are 47,600 confirmed monkeypox cases, of which 17,000 cases are reported in the United States. The Jynneos vaccine is in short supply, and to expand access, U.S. regulators have authorized a method of administration that allows providers to get 5 doses instead of 1 from a single vial. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
NASA rushes to fix an engine problem of Artemis 1 after its long-awaited launch en route to the moon was delayed. Nerissa Dando will tell us why. Live. Nerissa?
Good evening, Elsie. Just 2 hours before its scheduled launch, NASA engineers found a bleeding engine in the Space Launch System rocket carrying 730,000 gallons of liquid hydrogen and oxygen. Unable to fix the issue within the limited time frame, NASA's Artemis mission manager Mike Serafin decided to pause the lift-off in hopes to troubleshoot the systems within 96 hours.
Friday is definitely in play. We just need a little bit of time to look at the data, but the team is setting up for a 96-hour recycle.
Serafin and the team refused to give up on the lifetime mission and are aiming to resume the launch successfully by Friday, September 2. The Artemis 1 flight mission is the U.S. Space Agency's first attempt after 50 years of following the footsteps of Apollo 17, the first rocket to land on the moon in 1972. Besides declaring to carry the first woman to ever step on the moon, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson proposed a much larger vision for landing on the moon. Nelson claims this mission will help develop the ability of humans to live in other worlds besides the Earth, describing the moon mission as a push outward into what further lies beyond this universe. Elsie?
Nerissa, what will happen if the NASA crew still fails to resolve the engine problems by this Friday for the second attempt to launch Artemis?
Elsie, the crowd that came to watch the first attempted launch of Artemis were already disappointed by the mission delay. If the second attempt again gets postponed, the audience can expect to see the third attempt by late September or even early October. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Nerissa Dando, for that live report. We'll share more global stories with you later, but for now, back to you, Harleen.
Thank you, Elsie. The Philippine Army and the police in Maguindanao conduct manhunt operations following the ambush that killed both the Ampatuan Police Chief and his driver. Leia Ilagan has the story.
The group of Ampatuan Chief of Police Lieutenant Reynaldo Samson will serve a warrant of arrest to wanted person this morning at Barangay Kapinpilan, Ampatuan, Maguindanao. However, more or less 10 heavily armed men ambushed them prior to serving the warrant.
Patay po kagad natin, napuruan sila. So, pati ang driver niya, si Police Corporal Indab.
Maguindanao Provincial Police Office PIO Chief Major Reggie Albillera said they are looking for the Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighter or BIFF as the possible perpetrator.
So, pero alleged sila, member po lang ng BIFF. Kung doon yung investigation, doon pa yung ibang tropa natin sa loob. Kung kayo sa pinakamotibo, gumanti sila sa tropa natin. Kaya na, sa ngayon, ongoing din kuha natin, nakag-file ng kaso sa yung mga suspect na yan. Inunahin ng trupa natin.
Police Regional Office 12 also alerted all units to intercept Abdul Nasser Saptula Gianid, who is believed to be responsible for the killing of Ampatuan Chief of Police Lieutenant Samson and his driver.
Meron pa tayong kinandak na hot pursuit ngayon, ma'am. Pinasok pa ng ating tropa, PNP at saka PNP SAF doon sa area ngayon, ma'am. Ito, andito pa kami sa kung saan yung nangyaring ambush. Then yung tropa natin pumasok sa area, ma'am, sa looban.
Apart from 2 killed, 3 more policemen were injured. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine and the United States Coast Guard will hold a joint search and rescue exercise in the West Philippine and Occidental Mindoro on Saturday. The PCG, however, clarified it will not be a show of force. Dante Amento tells us why.
U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, Mary Kay Carlson, pledges that the U.S. will continue to cooperate with the Philippines in areas like technical training and the exchange of crucial information. The long-term alliance between the two nations includes this.
There is no stronger reflection of our bilateral alliance than the visits and exchanges between our uniformed services. The U.S. Coast Guard is a vital and growing part of these interactions, and we plan to expand U.S. Coast Guard engagement in the Philippines over the months and years to come.
The U.S. Coast Guard cutter Midget has arrived in Manila this morning for the Philippines and U.S. Coast Guard joint search and rescue exercise on Saturday, September 3 in Lubang, Occidental Mindoro, and in the West Philippine Sea near Zambales. It aims to protect the safety of Filipino fishermen throughout our vast coastal areas and strengthen the response to maritime challenges.
And at the end of these engagements, we're looking forward to becoming better and stronger together by working as partners to ensure that a rules-based international order is in place to support maritime governance, to support security.
The PCG, however, made it clear that the drills will not be a display of force because one of its mandates is to focus on humanitarian efforts such as search and rescue. The PCG also thinks that because of the ongoing maritime dispute in the West Philippine Sea, it won't have an impact on our relationship with China.
Tandaan nyo, ito ay search and rescue exercise. Kahit sinong bansa, pwede tayo makagawa ng ganitong klase ng exercise. Borderless ang search and rescue. Kahit na po halimbawa meron kayong hindi pagkakaunawaan, pero pagdating sa search and rescue, magtutulungan tayo pare-pareho dyan sapagkat buhay yung nakataya.
PCG spokesperson Commodore Armand Balilo added they have previously conducted joint search and rescue operations with other nations including Japan, Indonesia, and even China.
Kung natatandaan nyo, nung China naman ang bumisita rito, nagsagawa rin tayo ng search and rescue exercise with them. Walang issue. Sa akin sa Coast Guard walang issue to.
The joint exercise will involve more than 200 U.S. Coast Guard personnel and 150 PCG personnel. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
By the end of this century, a large Greenland ice sheet that is melting as a result of human-caused climate change could trigger a roughly 1-foot rise in sea levels worldwide. Ani Mancilia explains why. Live. Annie?
Elsie, Greenland's zombie or doomed melting ice is still attached to thicker areas of the sheet, but experts say it is no longer getting fed by larger glaciers as temperatures continue to rise. The study in the journal Nature Climate Change said the global sea level will eventually rise by at least 10 inches on its own and could reach as much as 30 inches between now and 2100. Experts say regardless of what climate emissions scenario we take now, the fast melting ice could still have ominous implications over the century. It could swamp vast swathes of low-lying coastlines, storm surges, and supercharged floods. The author of the study, Jason Bach, said his team used a radically different method from computer modeling, but could predict the consequences of sea level rise in the coming decades. Elsie?
Thank you, Ani Mancilia, for that report. According to Pakistan's planning minister, preliminary estimates reveal that the country's disastrous floods had inflicted at least $10 billion in damage. Almost 1,136 people have died, and more than 33 million, or more than 15% of the country's population, have been affected by the flash floods caused by record monsoon rains. Also washed away by the torrential rains were roads, crops, houses, bridges, and other forms of infrastructure. On Monday, Pakistan received a $1.1 billion bailout from the International Monetary Fund. That money is aimed to help the cash-strapped economy avoid defaulting on its debts. The last member of an uncontacted Amazon tribe has died. According to the nonprofit organization Survival International, the indigenous man, sometimes known as the Man of the Hole, spent 26 years alone in Brazil's Rondônia state. The man's nickname came from the propensity for digging deep tunnels to conceal himself or capture animals. He was estimated to be roughly 60 years old. On Tuesday, a FUNAI employee who works to safeguard indigenous people in Brazil discovered his dead corpse in a hammock outside of his straw house. FUNAI said the man died of natural causes and his body will undergo a forensic examination by the federal police. According to Fiona Watson, Director of Research and Advocacy at Survival International, he symbolized both the horrific brutality and violence meted out to indigenous peoples across the world in the name of colonization and profit, as well as their resistance. And those are the reasons behind the news in other parts of the globe. I am Elsie Marcos, live from Auckland, New Zealand. Good evening.
A memorandum of agreement was signed by the Commission on Higher Education and private higher education institutions to accept displaced students from the Colegio de San Lorenzo after its closure. Janice and Henta reports.
In order to permit a smooth transfer of displaced students from Colegio de San Lorenzo, a memorandum of agreement with the Commission on Higher Education requires some higher education institutions to accept 300 displaced CDSL students in Quezon City. CHED Chairperson Prospero de Vera III reports that the MOA will heighten the requirement of the Manual of Regulations for Private Higher Education for a smooth admission of students and considerations for graduating students.
So this is not about CHED. This is really an occasion to forge an agreement and an occasion for the Commission to thank our private universities for extending a helping hand to the students and their families who were affected by the closure. And so we are authorizing or allowing the universities to exercise discretion and exercise flexibility in how they determine the units that will be credited, the way by which they can check if the students already would have passed and would have learned from courses that were taken earlier. And the master list of students will be kept in CHED. So pagdating ng special order na pipirmahan, alam namin kasama doon sa batch nito na binigyan ng special consideration. So they will be authorized to graduate. No? But again, that is in the exercise of the discretion of private universities.
St. Joseph College in Quezon City, Trinity University of Asia, Our Lady of Fatima University, Siena College in Quezon City, and other schools are just a few of the schools that signed the agreement. For graduating students, some schools have decided to waive some subjects.
From Trinity University of Asia, what we did with the graduating students is, of
course, we need to evaluate their courses. But because each university and private higher education institution would have institutional subjects, these institutional subjects are developed by the institution. So what we did was to waive these institutional subjects so that they could easily be, graduate within this time, and they would have the timely graduation.
According to the CDSL management's report, 735 of the 783 students enrolled in CDSL have already received a refund, or the equivalent of 94%, while 501 students have already transferred to other schools. De Vera said investigating potential sanctions for an abrupt closure of CDSL will happen, while stating that students' welfare remains their first priority. Janice Enhente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
A lawmaker is calling on the Department of Health, or DOH, to begin preparations for the procurement of second-generation vaccine for COVID-19. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
Former Health Secretary and Iloilo 1st District Representative Janet Garin said there are studies showing the efficacy of second-generation vaccines against COVID-19 variants. According to the lawmaker, the Department of Health should begin preparations for procurement, especially when there is no allotted budget for it under the National Expenditure Program. She explains that the health department can either procure the said vaccines or get them through the World Health Organization COVAX facility. The second-generation vaccines would help the public be more protected, especially if the country aims to be under an endemic state of COVID-19.
Some of the developed countries will be implementing it by October. Yung iba nga ay parang nagmamadali kung pwedeng mahabol ng September. So if the highly developed countries will be having it by October, malamang malayo na ang December para makarating yon sa Pilipinas.
Apart from the preparations by the Health Department, the lawmaker also said micro, small, and medium enterprises should also be allowed to procure their own vaccines for their employees. This would aid in increasing vaccine coverage. Several countries already purchased second-generation Moderna vaccines, and the deliveries are expected to arrive by October. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Our Kasangbahay, as the world faces these trying times amid the pandemic caused by coronavirus, we are inviting everyone to join the Global Prayer for Humanity from Monday to Friday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine time, through the social media accounts of Members Church of God International.
Before we close, we will leave you with the word, giving glory to God. From the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 29, verse 11, it says, "Thine, O Lord, is the greatness, and the power, and the glory, and the victory, and the majesty. For all that is in the heaven and in the earth is thine. Thine is the kingdom, O Lord, and thou art exalted as head above all." Reasons behind the news, August 30, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Harding Delgado.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.